Well, if you know about EFT tapping and you tap on yourself, or you've heard about EFT tapping and you'd like to tap on yourself, my guest today, Lori Lamont, is a trainer, and we're going to talk today about surrogate tapping on how you can tap for your loved ones and other people that may need tapping and are not able to do that. Hi, I'm Jan Hamning, and I'm here today with my friend, my co-teacher, the co-creator of Just Imagine manifestation program. Lori Lamont has trained me. She mentors me. She tolerates me. She teaches me. She gives me a new perspective on things. Lori Lamont's been my friend for, I don't know, Lori, about 5-6 years now, maybe.
Probably.
And
Yeah.
we met in a manifestation class, an online manifestation class. Lori's on the East Coast. I'm in the Midwest. And let me just, you ask Lori Lamont for a brief bio. And this is the brief bio. I mean, talk about brief.
You said brief.
Lori Lamont is an EFT mentor, trainer, EFT Master Trainer, mentor, and practitioner. Her mission is to raise the vibration of the planet through heart-centered living and work. That's it. That's, because she's very modest. I'll let you know, Lori is a lot more than that, and you will find out as we have this conversation today. I invited Lori to speak on my YouTube channel to talk about surrogate tapping. So for those of you that don't know surrogate tapping, we can tap for other people that might need our help or might need some emotional regulation, or people that are not able to use their hands or able to speak or even converse with us in any way, of people that are very ill. We can surrogate tap for others. And I'm going to talk to Lori about this. We're going to talk about how it's done, why it's done, situations where Lori and I, because as you all know, I'm an EFT practitioner also. And we're going to talk about a situation where you might want to tap for somebody else. And Lori, I know you have 2 teens right now, 2 teenagers.
Yep.
And I know that since I've known you, and they were much younger when I first met you, and I know there have been times when you've tapped on, you have 2 other children, older children, and I know you have mentioned through the years I've known you, sometimes I just got to tap for them.
Yeah.
And could you give me a situation with your own children, and you don't have to disclose anything private,
Okay.
but a situation where you would tap on your surrogately for your children?
Yeah, of course. The first time that I did it surrogately, one of my daughters had been experiencing dizziness for months. And we went to the doctor and we did all sorts of different things that they told us to do for dizziness. Nothing was helping. And the school nurse had called me and said, "You're just going to have to come get her. She has been to my office. I think I've been like 7 times that day for being dizzy. She's like, there's nothing wrong with her. There's nothing I can determine, but just come get her." Because frankly, I think the nurse was tired of seeing her. And so I had this thought as I was driving to pick her up that maybe I should tap for her. So I picked her up, brought her home, and then I sat in my chair and I tuned into my daughter and I tuned into what she was feeling. And I just said, even though I'm dizzy, and I'll explain later, there's actually a better process, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I was like, even though I'm dizzy, I'm still a great kid. And I tapped that just a few points, few rounds, and I'm dizzy, I'm dizzy, I'm dizzy. And all of a sudden it hit me. I'm nervous. So I kept going with it. I'm nervous. I'm nervous. I'm nervous. Like 2 rounds, just a few minutes of tapping. And that was it. I went and checked on my daughter maybe 15 minutes later, and she was putting on her leotard. And my daughter is still a roller skater. And you can't really, like an artistic roller skater, like figure skating, but on wheels. You can't really do that if you're dizzy. So I walked in the room like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm getting ready for skating. I said, aren't you dizzy? And she looked at me. She's like, no. Like, what do you mean? She had forgotten that she had been so dizzy that the nurse sent her home. Um, so just literally maybe 3 minutes of me tapping and dialing in. It really wasn't that she was dizzy, she was nervous. And I don't even know what she was nervous about. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter,
I
right?
was able to give a voice to that feeling that was showing up through her body as dizziness, allowed her to process through that nervousness. And then she wasn't nervous anymore, wasn't dizzy anymore.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember when that happened and you were talking about it. And, for the people watching this, and when Lori said all of a sudden she wasn't dizzy, I was thinking of nervous. The more you use this technique, the more you do any type of energy technique, you do automatically become more intuitive. It just happens over time as you tune into your energy and tune into your heart and just trust what comes to your thoughts, trust what you feel in your heart. So that just happens. But yes, we have tapped together as a group with a group for people that have been in a coma. We have tapped, I have tapped for many, many people. And you tune into their energy from long distance. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you're at. You can just tap. You know what? As one of my trainers in Eden Energy Medicine says, nobody's head's going to fall off. It doesn't cost you a penny to do, and it takes minutes, maybe a couple of times a day. And you can't do it wrong. You really can't do it wrong. So Lori, could you give us just an example of how it is done? Because you and I both know the EFT process, and many of the viewers know the EFT process. But could you give us like just one little example of how you would do this for somebody that maybe needs some emotional regulation or healing?
So, so first things first. First thing I want to say is there's different perspectives and views on the ethics of surrogate tapping. And so you have to do what feels right for you. Some people will say if you don't ask for permission for prayer, then you don't need to ask for permission to do surrogate work. Other people say you have to have express permission. So you have to connect with yourself, do what feels right for you. For me personally, my view is I'll check in with the person energetically, and as long as I'll ask, is it appropriate for me to do some surrogate work for you? If I can't ask them verbally and physically, I'll ask them energetically, and just trust if it's a yes or a no. Gary Craig, who's the creator of EFT, he had a brilliant way of looking at it. He says, do you ask for permission before you complain about someone? Or before you essentially are cursing someone? Do you ask for permission before you do that? Nope.
Or before you gossip about someone.
Right. If you're not asking for permission before you do something in that realm, but whatever, everyone has to do what's right for them. It's also my belief that if it's not for their highest and best good, nothing's going to happen. And if it is for their highest and best good to receive that regulation, that healing, then it will happen. So that's my little caveat that I have to share. But so let's say somebody could use some surrogate tapping, somebody's dealing with grief, maybe we'll say, because it feels like there's a lot of that going around lately. And so the first thing that you're going to want to do before you even attempt to connect with that person, how do you feel? Because we can't pour from an empty cup. And if I had an emotional attachment to my daughter's dizziness, then it probably wouldn't have worked so quickly and so easily, Like we have to make sure, and there have been times with my kids, usually I'm pretty detached. I'm like, that's theirs. But every now and again, something could be going on where I'm feeling upset also. So first things first, just check in with yourself. Are you regulated? Are you feeling like wound up about whatever the issue is? So if I check in with this person that I'm going to do some surrogate tapping with, and as long as I feel regulated, you can proceed. But if you're not feeling regulated, you just want to start with just a round or two of, even though when I think about so and so and their situation, I feel, and you would tap a round or two about how you feel about the person that you're concerned about or that you're thinking about. And just running through, I'm worried about them and I'm so concerned and this is I don't know, right? You would just tap on whatever your words are that you're feeling about that person, allowing yourself to be regulated. Once you feel regulated and you feel like you're not an empty cup, frankly, you're capable of
Well,
holding space for
I
them.
would think it's like when you feel like you're grounded enough
Exactly.
and you have clarity and you don't get that emotional charge thinking about it.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
you have to put your oxygen mask on your
yeah.
own face before you can then help everybody else, right? Like we have to make sure that we're regulated, that we're grounded, that we're I'm not saying you need to spend hours on this. I'm just like one round check in. Um, but if something big comes up and you notice that you're crying or that you're really, really upset, now is not the time to do surrogate work. Now is the time to focus on yourself and how you're feeling about the situation, frankly. So assuming that you're in a good place, you're feeling great, um, you now have a couple choices. Some people like to bring that person forward sort of mentally and tap with them, like even though you're feeling. I usually skip that step. I just don't know if it's really necessary. For me, I like to just connect with the energy of the person, taking a few breaths, connecting with them. I also think it's incredibly important that we're in our heart space. So
Mhm.
so we would do a few breaths. We can do that together actually, because it's always good to bring ourselves back into our heart awareness. So just hands on the heart. And if you can, maybe you can feel your heart beating, bringing your awareness to your heart. And we'll do 3 slow breaths. So a slow inhale, hold, and exhale. Do 2 more. Really bringing your awareness from your head down into your heart. And once you feel like you're in your heart space, and here's the thing, guys, your heart is actually what governs everything. We think it's all in the head. We think that our brain's just the most magnificent thing ever. Actually, it's our heart that governs everything. And so we're kind of like one step behind if we're doing everything from the head. If you really want to put your best foot forward, get to the heart first. So now we're in our heart space. Now you can connect with the energy of that person that you'd like to do some surrogate work with, and you connect with how they're feeling. And you've asked for permission. It's okay for you to connect with them. And I just dial in, and even though I'm feeling, and just connect with whatever word comes through. Maybe it's worried, maybe it's afraid, angry, who knows? It doesn't matter. And just trusting. And even though I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling, that's how I feel. I allow myself to feel what I need to feel. Just tapping a few rounds of that on the side of the hand until that feels like, yep, this is the feeling. Just run through the points of whatever emotions are coming through. Here's the thing, just like with the dizziness, the emotions are likely to change.
Yep.
Just move through them. My other rule is I don't do surrogate tapping more than like 5 minutes is my max. I won't sit and do surrogate tapping for a very, very long time. Usually just a few rounds is enough. Once you feel movement, then separate the energy from that person, release them, go back about your day. I liked to imagine that I was like a superhero in my house. Like, Superman would, like, something bad's happening. What do you do? He'd like run to the telephone booth and he'd rip off his stuff and take off his glasses, and all of a sudden, oh, superhero, right? He'd come out. So for me, I would go and I would talk to my kids, and I can't believe so and so did this, and I'm so mad at this, or I'm so worried about this test, or whatever, right? And I'd listen to all their complaining or all their concern, and I would like try really hard to remember what they said, and then I'd run into my bedroom, like instead of instead of the telephone booth, and I'd be like, even though I'm so mad at so and so, and I can't believe she said that. What was she? And I would just reverberate all the words that they just told me, and I would just tap through whatever they were feeling or telling me rather, and then I'd go back out into my house, and it was like a completely different child would be sitting there. And nobody ever knew that I was doing this. But it kept changing the energy of the room. Or my husband, he had a motorcycle that was very finicky, and sometimes it wouldn't start. And he would be out there like trying to start it, and he'd be yelling, and I could hear him in the house. He'd be so upset, and I just, even though this stinking motorcycle won't start, I'm so angry, right? And I would just use those words, and I'd do a round, and then the motorcycle would start, everything would be fine.
That's so funny, because I now know your husband, and I've met him in person, and I can just see him doing that too.
Yeah.
And so do you ever tell your family members that you've tapped it for them? No.
In fact, I hope they never see this video, to be honest.
Oh,
No, I mean, they can see it, it's fine. But
I really don't think they're going to be watching my YouTube channel.
you never know, they might. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure they have an inkling, but no, that's part of the power to it, right? Like, it's that, like, they don't need to know to reap the benefits.
Right. Yeah. And I and anybody who has experienced EFT tapping with a practitioner, or if you are a practitioner, you know the power of tapping. And you can, they have part of it is called borrowed benefits. You could be in a room or a Zoom group of tappers in my monthly group tapping, and Lori has monthly group tappings also. The group who shows up will get benefits, even though if we're not tapping on their emotion that they're feeling, they will get a shift of energy within them too. So, there's that borrowed benefits with it's just a powerful tool. And if you're not tapping, you really need to start tapping. And you don't have to go to training, and, you could just, there's videos everywhere about how to tap, and just start with the basics. But, I love the surrogate tapping because it gives us it empowers us. If you don't know what to do to help somebody that you love that's struggling, and you feel helpless, like I'm sorry, my dear friend is in a coma, and I feel like I can't do anything to help. When you start tapping surrogately for that person, I mean, besides praying or whatever your practice is, your belief is, you start tapping, it really does empower you also. Yeah. And you have to remember, because Lori and I talk about this in our Just Imagine course, our program that we had for several years, 3 years. It's not always about giving. It's okay to receive. In fact, we should have that balance of giving and receiving in order to create our future that we desire, and to have that balance of yin and yang, and and that flow, that general flow. So, for you giving as a surrogate tapper for somebody that needs help or healing, some type of energy healing, it's okay to feel empowered and feel good about yourself. That's not selfish.
No,
Like, oh, I got to give. I can't feel good about this. No, it really does. It does empower you. Do you agree with that, Lori?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I want to share, there was we did a presentation. I did a presentation on surrogate tapping at an autumn energy event. And the theme of the event was birth and rebirth. And my plan was to do surrogate tapping just on anybody who was delivering a baby that day. But then it was like, well, how are we going to know if it was helpful? And I reached out to a friend who was 20 something weeks along, and it was a very challenging pregnancy, and the doctors were advising to maybe terminate. And there were a lot of concerns about the baby and if the baby would make it, if the mom would make it. And so I reached out to her. I said, "Hey, can we do surrogate work for you?" And
During that class, during that
yeah, during the
presentation?
presentation, she
Oh,
said, "Absolutely." And so she gave me, so I had a picture of her up on the PowerPoint behind me, great big picture of her pregnant belly, and a picture of an ultrasound image of the baby. And and of course, a lot of people in the audience were feeling activated. So first we had to resource ourselves. Then we did tapping on how we felt the mom was feeling. And then we did tapping for the baby. And then we even did surrogate tapping for the doctors and the staff so that they could have, just to open them up to different perspectives, different resources, different ideas, right? Like open, like to not discredit some idea that might come through, or, and then at the end of the whole weekend, we were all standing in a big circle, and we we gave a blessing to this baby. Everybody went around the circle to give a blessing to this baby. And at the very end, everybody like wrote their blessing on a big piece of paper, and they had it in
so
the mom
nice.
ended up having it. And 2 days later, after that experience, the doctors, the majority of the doctors were leaning towards termination, and there was one doctor who didn't feel that way. And within a couple of days, most of the doctors had shifted their perspective to, actually, maybe we don't have to terminate. Maybe we can, and they were all of a sudden working with different ideas and whatnot. And then a few weeks later, she was still premature and she still had her health issues, but Hope was born, and they named her Hope. And oh gosh, she's in school now. That must have been 2018, I want to say. So there's a lot that can happen. And I can't say that the baby's born because of us, but I'm pretty sure it didn't hurt. And
Didn't hurt at all.
you know,
Nope.
but that's an example of, right, like not just connecting with, so connecting with how you're feeling, if you have a friend in coma, right, and how you're feeling about that, connecting with the friend, but the family members, and then also all of the medical staff, everyone who's
Yes.
making decisions, they need the surrogate tapping too.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up, because it just doesn't have to be for that one person that may need regulation. I mean, in a situation where it's a health issue like that, or an emergency, yes, you can tap surrogately for everybody involved to help drop their cortisol, to help regulate the emotions so they have clear thinking,
Mhm.
and they're thinking, they're going from their heart
Exactly.
and not sticking in their head out of panic and high cortisol counts. Yeah,
That's
because
really it.
they say when your cortisol's high and you're all stressed, it's the worst time to make a choice or a decision.
Mhm.
So the surrogate tapping helps to reduce the cortisol of everybody involved that you're tapping for and on
Exactly.
surrogately. Yeah, and it's all, and a lot of people are like, well, I don't know how that can happen if they're living on the other side of the planet. it's energy, it's vibrational frequencies and that's what this is all about, vibrational frequencies when you're doing any type of long distance healing.
Absolutely.
Or how many times do you sit there and you get a phone call, you're like, I was just thinking about you.
Mhm.
It's a perfect example. So yes, EFT and so many other energy techniques that Lori and I are familiar with. Some people think of it as a miracle when people heal from it. She and I were just in a 2-day class together over the weekend, an intro class that we're both actually signing up to learn because, we can't stop learning new things, can't stop going to school. But it was interesting to hear the healing examples of what has happened with the different technique, a different energy technique that Lori and I are not trained in yet. And it's like healing is possible. When you get a diagnosis, don't necessarily hold on to that diagnosis. Look at options out there. There are options. There's so many options if you stay curious and open to them. And people heal every day from death sentences of diagnosis.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I'm often reminded of one of the statements that she'd made in the class, which was, there are no mistakes in nature.
Yeah.
And we are nature. Our bodies are a miraculous, we're just another part of nature, and there are no mistakes. And so when we allow our body, our right, so allowing that, the healing and the energetic shift,
Yeah.
absolutely. But with the surrogate work, you can move things along.
You can
Really
move, you
genuinely
can make
can.
shifts. You can make amazing shifts.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm always, I love Lori when you and I visit each week and through the years, and we tell stories or just compare things that have happened in our lives for the past week. And every time you talk about, somebody you surrogate tap for, or the practice that you have on positive things that have happened, it just it makes me so what would that word be? It makes me so grateful that I have started to learn this work many years ago.
Mhm.
Energy, any type of energy work, when I was first started training in Eden Energy Medicine back in 2011, I think. Yeah, it just makes me grateful that I was introduced to it and that I stayed in the flow and kept following the flow. The breadcrumbs, I kept following the breadcrumbs of all the techniques that were dropped in front of me in the emails and videos, and say, oh, I think I'll look into this. And yeah, so I'm grateful that I've learned this. I'm grateful that I've met you because you teach me so much. And if anybody would like Lori to do a presentation for their groups, I know she'd be thrilled to do that. People have these group classes and so forth on Zoom all the time, and I know Lori would be more than happy to teach something, do an intro or something like that, or just talk about the power of tapping. Or, she's now a trainer for matrix re-imprinting, which is another amazing technique.
Yeah.
So yeah, Lori, how can people find you?
My website is Empowerment EFT, and that's probably just the easiest way. I'm not huge in social media, but
No,
go to my
Lori's
website.
Lori's a very grounded, connected person, and nothing frilly or fancy. You get the facts with Lori, which is one reason I just love her so much. I'm so grateful we're friends. But yes, if you have any questions about surrogate tapping, or if you want to know anything else about what Lori offers, I mean, I've done a lot of things with Lori as a group on Zoom, and I actually went out this year for my first time meeting her. Well, second time meeting her in person, but I actually got to see her longer than 8 hours. Uh, yeah, I did a matrix reimprinting class with her in October out in her area in Massachusetts. So if you have any questions about Surrogate, if you have any questions to me, you know how to reach me. But I'll put the information will be below in all the below the video, so you can reach out to Lori, and she's an EFT trainer, you guys. She's an awesome trainer too, and she does Zoom classes. You don't have to go in person to Massachusetts. Yeah, so you can find that all out on her website. Thank you so much, Lori, for being here. It's
Thank
always
you.
a pleasure to have a conversation with you. And again, each time we talk or I see a presentation or I see you interviewed on some, because Lori gets interviewed on many, many podcasts. I'm always learning something when I watch her interviews. So, okay, everybody have a great day and watch for more videos coming out on my channel. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any of them. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.